Hey, is that a Latitude Junkie? Hi, look at that. You can find these Latitude Junkies anywhere. Hi, it's Mark from Latitude Junkies, and I just wanted to say happy Thanksgiving and happy holidays. We just got back from our European trip, and it was a bit of a long one, so we're going to do things a little bit differently. We're going to split it up into 3 different videos, and I'll let Sandy kind of explain a little bit about that.
Yes, this wasn't our typical 1-week getaway. This was 3 weeks. We went to Lisbon to visit some friends, and we had to stop over in Civitavecchia, which is near Rome. The reason we did that is because we were taking transatlantic cruise home back to Florida. That was 14 days long, and that took us through several areas of Spain. And we'll let Mark hand it off to him to talk about where we stayed and stuff like that.
Yeah, so what we did we spent most of our time in Portugal, in Lisbon, and what we did is we got an Airbnb, and the Airbnb was in an area that's located by King Eduardo Park. And the really great thing about being there is that there's a great mall there. So, if you like shopping and you like the mall, it's a great place to go. But for us, what was really important is that mall has a really nice market in the basement. So we were able to go and get food for breakfast and have some things for lunch. But we did go out and dine out as well. So we had a really good setup as far as a home base while we were in Lisbon.
Yes, Mark, and it was really, really high-end mall, but Mark didn't let me shop. Every time I tried to show him something, he's like, I couldn't find him. Anyhow, like you said, they call it the cave. It's the basement floor in this mall where they have like a Whole Foods market. Had fresh everything. Even the prosciutto was so fresh that they were shaving it right there, and cheese and prosciutto were fresh, and they were shaving it right in front of me.
Yeah, and in addition to that, it had a really nice bakery as well.
Oh yeah, there's this unbelievable iconic dessert called a pastel de nata, which is like iconic to Lisbon. This little custard dessert that's in like a flaky crust. It's to die for.
Yeah. So let's tell the folks a little bit about Lisbon and downtown Lisbon and what's down there.
Well, there's a huge commerce center, essentially on the water, and it's a big open square, almost like you'd see in Italy. Lots of walking, you can do some walking around. There's some great architecture.
Yeah, it's really kind of a cool place. And the other thing, it seems like every time we go to Lisbon, they're having like this web conference there. And so it's really hard to get a hotel. So it's kind of crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons we got the Airbnb. Sometimes it's just easier. And some people think Airbnbs or apartments are in not some desirable areas, but I'm going to tell you that's not correct. Where we stayed, we were right down the street from a beautiful Gothic church, and near the Marriott Four Seasons and Intercontinental Hotel. So it was a high-end neighborhood, not off in the country, off nowhere, off the beat track. It was a nice place. It had really some really cool history. One of my favorite things is the yellow trams, streetcars. They were actually sent from the Americas in the early 1930s, and most of them they were initially propelled. They were initially pulled by horses, and then later on, steam combustion moved them. And more recently, they're electronic, which if you're a green person, that's perfect. There's no pollution. They're not creating any pollution. But the most cool thing is there's a tram, number 28, that's really famous. A vintage 1930s tram that's still in operation today.
Yeah, they still run.
What's really, really cool about that tram is it goes through city center where the commerce center is, and it is able to navigate these small streets in these different neighborhoods, very historic, beautiful neighborhoods. And some of the streetcars are so small that you can see some pedestrians try to jump out of the way. And some people say, if it stops, you can actually reach out and touch a building. But I tell you what, don't do that, because I don't want you to go back and bloody stump.
Yeah. And we visited some other places while we were in Portugal. We went to a little fishing port town called Setúbal, and oh gosh, did we have a wonderful lunch. All we did, it was just, you pick your fish and they take it in the back and they cook it. And there's this other It's called choco frito. I think that's how you pronounce it, but it's like cuttlefish, but it's kind of like squid that's fried, but it is wonderful, and we really enjoyed that. And then we also went to a place called Ofuso, and I'll let Sandy tell you about the fish that we had there. It was amazing. We shared it with some friends, and it was just a wonderful time, wasn't it?
Yes. I think one of my favorite things, I love to eat, so Portugal or Lisbon is a great place to satisfy all your cravings. Especially the iconic fish dish in Lisbon is the bacalhau, which is cod. And they're saying that they can cook bacalhau in 365 ways, one for each day of the year. But the way we had it done at lunch was unbelievable. We went to this restaurant, picked our fish, and right there the chef prepared it. It was brought to our table. The four of us shared one. That's how big the cod is.
Yeah, and what a great value it is for 4 people. It was just a little over 100 euros, but that included your appetizer, it included wine, it included the fish, coffee, dessert.
Yeah,
it is just the craziest thing.
Not something we can get in Florida.
Right. And if you had a meal like that in the U.S., it would be like hundreds of dollars, yep, versus $100. So yeah, we had a great time. We really enjoyed that. We also visited some other areas like Torres Verde, where there was actually a fort that we visited. And it was a historic place because the French and Napoleon tried to invade Portugal at one time, and Portugal actually fought them off. And so there were some forts that were built in kind of like a line to prevent the French from coming in and taking over the country. So that was kind of neat. And then we also drove across to an area, to a beach called Santa Cruz Beach, which was really a beautiful beach and a nice place.
We've got a Santa Cruz Beach, there's a Santa Cruz Beach in California, USA, and there's one in Lisbon.
Yeah.
One in Portugal. Isn't that cool?
Yeah. And some of the other things we did is we went to, in downtown Lisbon, there's a monastery called Geronimo's Monastery. We went down there. There's also, like a maritime museum or something like that.
Beautiful architecture. One of my favorite things.
Yeah.
Just really, really gorgeous things. You can tell the craftsmanship is outstanding.
Yeah. And the area down in that area is called Belém. And Belém is really, really a neat area. There's a lot of restaurants, and there's actually a university by there, so there's a lot of young people who were hanging out at the beach. And when we were visiting, it actually was Halloween, and oh my gosh, did these people dress up crazy for Halloween. And not only that, I go for a walk every morning, and people were still partying in the morning, having a good time. These college kids were having a lot of fun, let me tell you.
And Lisbon's not a party.
Yeah, they sure do. And
I think they were up all night long.
They were. I guarantee it, because I got out there early and they were still there dancing and having a good time.
Now, one of the other things I like about Portugal is there's some really cool things. Like there's a bridge. It was called April 25th Bridge. I know it's an odd name, but it was changed for the date that the coronation revolution happened, which was April 25th, 1974, and that's why the bridge was named that. That bridge crosses the Targas down from Lisbon to Almada.
Mm-hmm. We actually did go to Almada, and Almada's a nice little town as well that isn't too far from Lisbon.
And another thing if you're sitting near this bridge, you could, in the background, on a clear day, you could see a statue or monument that's very similar to the one in Rio de Janeiro. Is called the Sanctuary of King of Christ, which is very similar. Like I said, the one that's was modeled after the one found in Rio de Janeiro, which is the Christ the Redeemer. Hey
there, it's Mark, and I just wanted to go over some of the costs for our trip to Lisbon, Portugal. And like I said earlier, this is kind of a longer trip that we've taken, and I've broken it up into 3 pieces. Basically, I've broken it up by country. So I'm going to do a piece on Portugal, I'm going to do a piece on Italy, and I'm going to do a piece on Spain in the transatlantic cruise. So what I'm going to talk about right now is just the Portugal piece. Basically the cost of going to Portugal and staying in Portugal. And the total cost of it was $220.41. And just to give you an idea of what some of the things were that our costs were that we incurred. For example, we had to take an Uber to go to the Avis rental car center here in the town we live in so that we could get a one-way rental car and take it down to Miami and leave out of Miami so I didn't have to park my car. That was a cost of $45. Oh, the Uber was $8.50. And then the cost of the rental car was $45, which was pretty good for a one-way car. The flight, we flew out of Miami because it's a direct flight right into Lisbon. We used TAP Air, which is Portugal Airways. And one of the tips I have for you is if you are going to take a flight into a big city or a major hub for an airline, is some of the airlines allow you to do a stayover and then continue on. And so what I did in booking our flight is I booked the flight from Miami going all the way through to Rome, and basically having a stayover in Lisbon. And by doing that, it actually reduced the cost of the flight. For example, if I were going to fly to Miami to Lisbon, it would be like $485 one way. But because I booked the flight with a stayover in Lisbon, so I booked it from Miami to Rome with a stayover in Lisbon, and the flight was only $365 one way for both legs of the flight. So that actually saved me some money by doing it that way. The other thing that we did is we got an Airbnb, and the Airbnb we got was in a nice neighborhood, and we got a one-bedroom Airbnb so that we had a kitchen, we had I'll call it a family area, and then we had a bedroom, because I actually get up pretty early in the morning and I do some things while Sandy still sleeps. So I like having that extra area, and I like having the kitchen because I like to make coffee in the morning and just sit there and enjoy my coffee while it's quiet. And so the Airbnb was actually $1,005. So that ran around $167 a day. And then as far as food goes, we had a food market that was in the mall by where the place we stayed at, and we got a grocery order. It was about $110. You know, we just got some things for breakfast, some cereals, some milk, that kind of stuff. We got some meats and bread for lunch, and a couple bottles of wine and all that. So that was only $110. So that ended up being about $18 a day. And then, as I was saying earlier, the taxis in Lisbon are very inexpensive. And so we did, you know, as far as getting around town, we took some Ubers that were like $6 one way or $9 another way. And then going to the airport, I think it was $9. So that was very reasonable. So like I said, in total, it was $2,220 for the Lisbon portion of the trip. And that was about $370 a day. But with that being said, you know, we didn't have to have a flight cost going to Rome. So the Rome costs are going to be a little bit lower than, let's say, the Portugal costs. So over the 3 trips, you know, some of the costs are shared, some of them aren't shared. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe and click on the notification bell so you get future videos. I'd be happy to hear from you what you'd like to see in any future videos. And at the end of this video, there'll be some of our other videos if you're interested in watching them. And thanks for joining us with the Latitude Junkies. We'll talk to you soon.